Welcome to the Jay Kim Show, Hong Kong's first dedicated podcast on investing in Asia. Join us as we survey the land and discover the greatest companies and most profitable investment opportunities in Asia. If this is your first time listening, thank you for stopping by. This podcast is produced every week with the goal of providing actionable insights to you, the listener, with every single episode. And now, on to the show. This week's show guest is Tim Yu, co-founder and CEO of Snapask. Snapask is a Hong Kong-based education technology company that offers tutoring services to students. With Snapask, students can instantly connect with qualified tutors to receive on-demand academic support around the clock. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's exciting to speak with you because I've actually heard of your company and the great things you're doing, and so I'm excited. And as someone who has 3 kids of myself, education is definitely at the forefront of my mind and my finances. So it's gonna be interesting to have a chat with you. So maybe you could give some background for the audience of who you are, you know, where you came up and this sort of thing.
So first of all, this company is actually my first thing I've been working on since I graduated, and even if when I haven't graduated yet, I was working as a private tutor. So a lot of students in uni they work as a private tutor, but then it's not a very efficient thing to do because you have to go door to door, spend about 1 hour back and forth to the student's place to do the classes, right? So it's the pain point for a lot of tutors, and even if they teach very well, they are bound by all these constraints that they have to commute, they have to spend time commuting, which is not very efficient. So that's why back then we try to do it online. I did it first by recording a lot of videos of myself teaching. I put it on Facebook, and quickly we caught a lot of traction. But interestingly, a lot of students, after they watch my videos, they started asking questions by inboxing me. So that's actually gave me the idea of, hey, why don't we just try and monetize this question asking behavior and make it into a real business instead of just answering questions online. So that's how the idea came about.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So, Tim, you're from Hong Kong originally, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you, straight out of school, then, because of your experience as a tutor, you decided to start a company. So was that, from sort of a entrepreneurial standpoint? I mean, how did your family and parents feel about that? I mean, were they supportive of that, or were they sort of, maybe you should get a regular job first? What did they think?
Yeah, I mean, there've been some struggle for both myself and my parents, what I should choose after I graduate. So I was very honest to myself and to my parents as well. Hey, this is something I really am passionate about. I think there is a future to building this in education, and as long as I can support myself, you guys should support me as well. So I mean that part was pretty clear to myself and to them. So I got their full support. But I mean, along the way, it's not enough to just have your parents' support, right? You have to really make the business work. You have to work with your team. You have to build the team, build the product. So these are all things that I haven't been trained to do. So it's a first-time manager, first time looking into product, not much work experience. So everything is new to me, which is a pretty big struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's also commendable because most people, when they first splash out, they have some sort of work experience in the past, and so there's some sort of soft skills at least that you learn. If not, some people actually have technical skills if they've worked at, in tech or whatever. But you've done extremely well with Snapask, and so that's a congrats to you for your success thus far. So what exactly what subject were you tutoring, and that you realized that I can start interacting with people online?
I was teaching math back then, math as a compulsory subject. So, because I'm a math major, it's the easiest thing for me to sustain myself. So that's why I chose math to tutor. But the interesting thing I saw was in the entire tutorial industry back then and even right now, a lot of tutorial schools they do classes with one to many. When I say many, it's actually 30, 40, or even 200 students in the same classroom, right? So this kind of, we call it the cram schools. We do not prioritize interactions and the actual learning with interactions, right? We prioritize spoon feeding information to students to actually train them on questions, on practice paper, and to make sure they can do the exams. So, which I personally think it's not the right thing to do. That's why even when I was doing tutoring, I really do one-on-one or even small classes to make sure students are getting the most out of it.
Right. So this is actually interesting because for first of all, if it's multiple kids in the same class, I guess for the parents it'd be slightly cheaper because it's not private, right? And that's not one on one. But then, so the methodology then you're saying that they use to teach also is not as effective. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, affordability is something we have to think about. There is a lot of more effective way and efficient way to make it affordable. Online being one of them, but it's the most important thing is not just about the price. I mean, parents they do want to invest as much as possible in the kids' education. So I think affordability is not the topmost priority.
Right.
So, but the thing instead is how well my kid can learn from this type of methodology and how is this suitable for them, and in long run can you guarantee they're actually learning something instead of just being an exam machine. So these are all things that we care so much about, not just in when I was teaching. I care a lot even when we are building our product right now. It's something we're building in terms of product feature, in terms of the content, the learning materials. Is it actually helping students? That these are stuff that we prioritize all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to something that you mentioned earlier, you well, first of all, you've picked a very a big segment or niche because education, obviously, globally, but particularly here in Asia, I feel is like you said, it's not that as price sensitive. People will spend money on kids' education, so it's a good it's a good sort of niche that you picked that has long-term structural growth, so to speak. But it's interesting. So I want to dig into sort of the process there in a little bit. But before that, maybe you can just tell us how you went about assembling your first team as a startup founder. Who are your team members? How did you actually concept from concept to actually pulling together a company? Like how did that process work?
As I said, I haven't had much experience working in a company or even in a group. The closest thing I did as a group was a group project in school, right? So
Hmm.
what I spent time the most on in the very beginning was product, which I think I mean, in retrospect, I think it's not the best way to do it. When I think too much about the technicality, how well we can deliver it as a service, as a feature, but instead we should have put much more time into researching about what are the users' needs and how would they want us to present this need to them. So we went straight in to build a team of engineers to really work on the product, to really build the first Android app and websites, right? But then eventually the product we launched, no one was using it because it's not that was not Snapask back then. We were just building a platform for students to post questions like a forum. So before it evolved into Snapask, we spent too much time on actually building something we assume could be useful, but end up users just don't think it's what they want. So uh,
Was
and
that something like Reddit or Quora or something like that, where people just
very similar to that. Whereas people can post not just images and text, they record a video and put it there. and have
Okay.
students to keep asking questions, and response comes after, right? So the lesson we learned and eventually how we built the team is a lot of growth hackers, a lot of people who are basically they do a lot of experiments. They have a very small assumption. Let's say I want to prove if students want to interact with within 10 minutes with a tutor, or if they want to do it a 30-minute session with someone. So we will do a lot of tests, a lot of experiments before we even build a product. So it includes research, a lot of mock-ups, some prototypes with the closest possible product we can find online without any cost to prove the assumption before we build the engineers. So that's the biggest difference from the beginning until now. We don't just look at how to build a product, but why we should build this feature and what exactly it should be presented as.
Right. Okay. And then how about your team? How did you go about finding co-founders and or developers and this sort of thing? Did you just by
Yeah.
friends and word of mouth and that sort of thing, or
Unfortunately, I don't have a co-founder. I mean, most people
just you?
say, yeah, it's just myself. Most people say company with co-founders would have a higher chances of success. But unfortunately, I don't have that. So I was working solo since the beginning. But then,
Wow.
very fortunately, I meet good people who are passionate in startups who really want to build education products that can change the usual way how people learn. So we get our first product manager joining us. She's from Taiwan. Lots of experience from Microsoft. The days with Microsoft in product management. So we started really to build Snapask from ground up, and eventually we hire, because the thing is Hong Kong is too small to be a market that's attractive to any foreign investors or to any team members to really invest that amount of resources to build the product. That's why we expand very quickly. So we found also a lot of members from different regions, and now except Hong Kong and Singapore and Taiwan, we also launch in Malaysia, in Indonesia, Japan and Korea lately. So these are new countries that we also built up our partners on, and we set up our office to hire marketers, to hire business development people. So that's about it. That's the entire story of building a team. Yeah.
That's incredible. And so, and this whole time you were just sort of funding it yourself initially, or were friends and family were helping out, that sort of thing?
Oh, so in the very beginning, we're self funded. So because I was tutoring, so there's still some cash for me to sustain the business. And eventually, we are very lucky. We got supported by some seed investors, some angel investors, who invested when the prototype is still not. We haven't formulated the entire strategy yet. It's still a prototype. There's still just a lot of users coming in, but we don't know how. We haven't quite figured out how to monetize yet. I mean, that's the stage when we had very good investors, not just investing money, but their knowledge and the experience in our business. That's why we
Right.
fly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Great story though on how you just started as a one man band and expanded. So Tim, can you let's walk us through the user experience of Snapask. Okay, so is it an app that you download, or is it is there a website as well that you can just log in? I mean, I'm looking at your website now,
Yeah.
but I don't. Yeah, I see a login on the. Are they? Is linked up to the app on your phone that you can download?
So the website, we do offer the same service on the website right now, but the core offering is still a mobile app. So
Hmm.
the app, it's pretty simple to use. Once you're logged in, you just choose the subject that you want to ask question about. Usually it's a student using it, high school students. Every day they have tons of homework. Typically, a student would spend over 3.5 hours a day on assignment. So
Right.
that's the Asian's life. So when you have like 8 subjects that you have to spend over 3-4 hours on, when you have questions that you cannot tackle, it's very seldom you can find someone just from your own network to solve the problems for you. If your family is lucky enough, you can have a private tutor, but that's not the case. That's not the luxury for most of the families. So they just simply use the phone to take a picture of the question and send out on Snapask. So with our matching algorithm, we actually understand the profile of the student, the subject, and we connect the best suitable tutor for them. So the tutor is all from local universities. Let's say if you're a Hong Kong student asking a question in math, we will connect you with someone from Hong Kong, from the top university in Hong Kong, and who knows about your subject. So that's the same case in other countries as well. So we do vet our tutors based on their university transcripts, their public exam certificates, to make sure if you want to teach math, for example, you have to get an A before you're qualified to teach on Snapask. So it's kind of an insurance for both students and parents.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. So let's say I'm a student and I download the app and I'm having trouble. Obviously, math is one of the subjects that you, because you were a math major. What are the other subjects that you have available for this service?
So most of the questions are actually from math and science. Science as in physics, chemistry, some geography, and biology, right? Over 80% of the questions are from these, from math and science. But there are more and more students asking questions in subjects like accounting, economics. It's a very wide range of different topics that they can ask about, and we do cover all the subjects in any given curriculum.
And what's the age group of that? What's the earliest that someone would use Snapask?
Oh, as early as they first enter high school. So at the age of 13, 14, we do have a lot of users from there. But most users, they become very intensive question askers when they turn 16, 17, when they need to face the real pressure, which is the public exam. So when they're preparing for these exams, which is the only chance for you to get into a uni, they become very serious. So they have to ask questions like 5, 6 times a day. Every month they ask hundreds of questions. So that's a serious time.
Wow. Okay. So I'm in high school, preparing for I'm 17 now. Let's say, Tim, and I'm preparing for my math exam, and I don't understand this question. So, load up the app on my phone, snap a photo of it, send it through the app. Then you have your matching algorithm that pairs it up with a tutor. And then then what happens? How does the flow happen after that? So a tutor picks it up,
Yeah.
and then what happens?
So we were actually called the Uber for tutoring by BBC. So they call us that because we actually have the instant pickup, just like an Uber driver. So when the question is it's out, tutor on the other side, they will get a notification, but we don't send it to all tutors. We only send to the most suitable bunch, but they have to fight for it. It's first come, first serve. If you are the first one to pick up, you can answer the question, because we also reward the tutor per number of questions they have answered, and based on their rating, we decide the reward level. So tutors do have the incentive to pick up as fast as possible. Now, the average pickup time in the peak hours is usually 5-6 seconds. So we do guarantee this kind of service level for most countries and during the peak hours.
Wow, that's incredible. It's when you sort of quantify it with metrics like that, it's pretty interesting, and it's interesting to hear that there's actually peak hours that people are asking questions. I assume that's sort of after school, after dinner, that time when they're actually digging in, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so how does tell us a little bit about the revenue model and how that works. How much does it cost for a student, and how much can a tutor potentially make?
So for tutors, they got paid per number of questions they answered. So a typical tutor, they got paid about $1 per question, which lasts for about 5 to 10 minutes. But they can answer multiple students at the same time, which is very different from private tutoring, which you can only cater one student at a time. So, but for student side, we charge them per month. So every month we charge a monthly rate of about $80. It's all you can eat. You can ask as many questions as you want of any subjects. So, which is a pretty affordable cost as compared to most of the other tutorial services. So I mean, the peak hours is usually after 8 p.m. And most students ask until 2 a.m. So it's the peak of the peak season. I mean, peak of the
Wow.
peak hours during the day.
So when so let's sorry, I switched gears, but so okay, so tutor picks up my question, and then so what do? I mean, do they just literally they answer the question, or is there more interaction? As in, is there do they explain the process? You know what I mean? Like, how does it work from there?
Because the entire teaching experience is within Snapask, where they after they were connected, they enter into a one-on-one session, just like when you're using WhatsApp or WeChat or any chatting app, right? So usually students and tutors, they use text, they use audio and image. So they write down the solution, take a picture and send it back, and elaborate with audio. So that's usually how the entire teaching flow goes about.
Ah, I see. And okay, so and the other question I had was the tutors. What you said they are they all college students or they're college students and above?
Oh, most of them are university students. So I mean, they just finished the public exam, so they have a lot of experience in how to take an exam and how to actually solve a problem with the simplest way. So that's why we recruit them as our tutor. But of course,
I see.
we do quality assurance as well to make sure even if you have the top grades that are qualified to be enlisted as a SnapAsk tutor, we still need to do a continuous process to make sure you're not doing inappropriate things, you're acting according to our terms and conditions, and you're providing good experience for our students. So it's both students' rating towards tutors' answers and also our very regular checkup with individual accounts.
Right. And then so after the questions answered, does the student rate the teacher thereafter similar to Uber?
Yeah, exactly. They rate
Okay.
according to the experience they've given.
Now, has there ever been a time when say the tutor actually couldn't answer the question?
That doesn't happen a lot, uh, mainly because the student they provided the answer. I mean, sorry, the student provided the question, which
Ahead of time
yeah ahead of
before they
time, and
right, right, right.
tutors get plenty of time to actually digest the question and figure out the solution. So, but the most important thing we want to convey here is our tutors don't provide just the answer. They stress a lot on how to elaborate the concept, how to apply the skills, how to help them to do it themselves. So we're not just helping students to copy homework. It's not our intent.
Right. Yeah, that's the key because that would not be very helpful in actually for the student either because just by simply having the answer they're still not going to be able to pass their exam if they're just given the answer.
Exactly.
So I think it's a great company, great concept, Tim. I'm just thinking of the numbers that you told me earlier. 88 bucks a month US. Is that what you said?
80 US.
80 US. Okay, yeah. I mean that's very very affordable. I just think about I we have like Mandarin tutor. It's not yeah, we have some tutors for my oldest daughter. She's still very young, but we hire them and they're already, around 20-30 US an hour.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So I can just imagine how affordable that would be, especially if it's like you said, all you could eat. I think that's great. Okay, cool. So talk to us a little bit about sort of. So now that you have a bunch of students, how many students do you have now on the platform, and how many tutors?
We have a little bit over 600,000 users
Wow,
on the platform, and for tutors, we have 120,000 qualified tutors.
very nice.
Yeah, in the 8 cities. Yeah.
Okay, and so is there any way that you guys are able to sort of track success metrics in any sort? I mean, I know it's difficult because it's literally, but I mean, there must be a way that you could sort of quantify? Okay, a student is better because of after having used the app or not. I don't know if you guys have figured out how to do that yet, but I would think that there has to be a way, right?
That was a struggle in the very beginning, where we're trying to measure how students are progressing or
That's
improving
right.
in school. So we try to get results from schools. We try to ask them, hey, why don't you provide the students' learning progress report to us? It's not that teachers don't want to provide, but because they don't have it, they simply don't have these reports for us to analyze. So it's more of a teacher who knows, hey, this student is improving well, but I could tell maybe within the next couple of tests and exams, which is not real-time support for. I mean, if you know they're not performing well in an exam, it's already done, right?
Right.
So you cannot do much to fix it. So that's why we understand this is a big gap between like actual effective learning and what we have right now in the school system. So we do also actively measure how students are progressing within the app. So simply by, let's say you ask the question in math that's about linear equations, right? You must have challenges understanding the problem and applying certain skills and concepts in this particular question. And that's why you ask the question, right? So because of this information, we would pinpoint that you must have some weaknesses or some concept that you don't have too much understanding it. So that's why we'll push quizzes and relevant questions to you to test how you're performing after the tutor helped you and illustrate the steps to you. So in this way, because they gave us feedback by answering that question, so we know if they're right or wrong, which proves they have certain progress after a certain session. So these are very tiny things that we're doing in the product to measure success. But eventually we realize we have built up a very big, gigantic database of students' performance. And now we even package this data and help teachers, their own class teachers, to understand more about the student and see, okay, I don't just have a class of 40 students in class 5B, but actually 40 individual students with individual profiles with their very specific weaknesses. That is all demonstrated on the report. That's the important thing, and I think it can change education in a very wide range of things. Yeah.
Absolutely. That sounds it's exciting because the data is very important, and yeah, like you said, you could help the actual education system as well with that data. So Tim, just a couple final questions for you. What are some of your goals? Near term and long term goals for Snapask. Maybe for the rest of the year and maybe a couple years out. You said you were in 8 countries now around the region. Is that right?
Yeah. So, 8 countries right now. The long-term goal is pretty simple. We hope this way, our assumption and our way of solving the grand challenge in education by providing personalized learning method should be global. It should be solving a global challenge. And so long-term, we will, long-term is just 3 years, right? We're trying to grow to as many countries as possible. So our goal, we have 8 countries right now. We're trying to grow to 25 countries by 2020. And within the next 2 years, the shorter term goals would be to make sure we can work with schools, to make sure the front line, the teachers, are actually spending time to understand their students instead of just marking homeworks and doing a lot of administration work, which is not the best use of their time and talent. So we want to make sure we do the work for them, make their life easier by analyzing students' weaknesses, visualize it, present it to teachers so they can focus on the pinpoint weaknesses for students and help them. So these are the 2 things, right? Bigger network, bigger reach, and a better way of helping students and educators.
What do you think, as someone that's in the space of education, how do you think that education is going to change in the longer term, say a decade now out from now, or even further? It's obvious that traditional forms of education are losing or are changing because of the internet, because of the accessibility of information. How do you see education? Is it going to still be it's the same state as it's in now in 20 years from now? What are your thoughts?
I think the mode of delivering education will definitely change. Because of, as you said, the accessibility, the variety of available tools out there, the way of conveying message and information would change, definitely. But unfortunately, one thing that will never change and will be very difficult to change in the next decade would be how we measure success. how we measure success in education. So now, and it was the same like a couple decades back, we're still assessing students' performance with the same rule, the exams. We're
Right.
still doing math, English, physics, all these subjects to actually bound students' performance and say if you're not good in physics, you cannot be a physician or you cannot be a good university student. So these are very disappointing things that I still have to accept. But still, based on this, we can still do a lot to make sure students learn and get the best out of this current education system. But the thing is, the biggest change that is quite aspiring as an educator and in this field is that we could understand students much better because of the availability and the abundance of data. And the data
Right.
and all the notes that we can actually collect from students make sure we understand and can provide the most personalized way of learning. It's just like if you are a patient, right? You want to know what is the best way to treat me as a patient, and I
Right.
want my doctor to know it 100%, to know what exactly is the medicine that is suitable for me and what is my allergies, right? So these are things exactly the same in education. You want to make sure teachers are not teaching the same thing to you and wasting your time, but instead you should use your time in things that you have weaknesses, you have misunderstanding in, right? So
That's right.
I think that data can help educators to do a much better job in the future, which is very, very aspiring, and we intend to build the right tools for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tim, two final questions for you. The second to last one is, as an entrepreneur who has basically started a company on your own without any help, and having going through your startup slash entrepreneurship journey, if you had one piece of advice to give to aspiring startup founders or aspiring entrepreneurs, maybe trying to build a company here in Hong Kong, what would that piece of advice be?
I mean, in short, it's just don't quit, don't die. It's very simple. Because most people, like management books, tells you how to be a better CEO, how to be be better in management and all that, right? But the truth is, I think a lot of the cases are different. The same methodology could and could not apply in your situation. A lot of different factors and risks appears. But the only common thing is if you quit, you cannot do it again. I mean, if you quit, the entire company is gone.
Right.
You are gone. Your team is gone. Your investors are gone. There is nothing left, right? So I guess the single piece of most important advice I do keep to my chest very close as well is don't quit, don't stop. Yeah.
That's good advice. That's great advice, and I think that it's every entrepreneur has felt the urge to quit, multiple times, and it's being able to embrace that and just plow forward is how you succeed. And I think a lot of people, they actually don't truly understand how difficult it is to be an entrepreneur and to build a $100 million company or $1 billion company or whatever. And I think that when you come out on the other side, what I hear, I haven't done it, but when you come out on the other side, you always hear about people saying how difficult it actually is, and so it's almost worth it. It's worth if your company is valued at XYZ, then I'm pretty sure that you've worked pretty hard for that. So, Tim, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us your exciting company that you're working on. What's the best place that people can find you, follow you, or connect with you, or if they want to learn a little bit more about what you're working on?
Oh, so I mean, if you're a student, or if you're not a student, you want to teach, you want to be involved in Snapask, just go and download Snapask on Play Store and Apple Store. So if you want to know more about the company, what are the open positions, you can go to our website, snapask.com. And always find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. Always happy to talk.
Okay, awesome. Facebook, LinkedIn, and we'll get your links all linked up in the show notes. Thanks again, Tim. It's been a pleasure, and best of luck. I'll be monitoring your progress very closely because, like I said, I have 3 kids of my own, and I'll probably be using your service very soon.
Thanks so much. Thanks so
All
much.
right, take care. Bye.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. All the show notes and links can be found over at jkimshow.com. Come back often and make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Don't forget to join us next week for another exciting episode of The J Kim Show. I'd love to hear your comments. You can find me on Twitter at jkimmer, JAYKIMMER. See you guys next week. This podcast is brought to you by Hack Your Fitness, the high achiever's guide to getting ripped in under 3 hours a week. If you're anything like me, you're probably working a full-time job or jobs and trying to find time to balance family life, social life, and last but not least, fitness. Look, I get it. I'm a full-time investor and entrepreneur myself, and father of two. So how am I able to stay fit year-round without spending hours and hours in the gym killing myself on the cardio machine? After struggling for the last 15 years trying every workout and diet under the sun, I finally designed a system that allows me to achieve and maintain single-digit body fat for life in under 3 hours a week. Cardio not required. Head on over to hackyour.fitness and download my free 13-page guide that teaches you the simple science behind efficient fitness and smart nutrition and gives you everything you need to know to finally take control of your life. That's hackyour.fitness.